McGlumpher, and I'm back again with another big NEET news scoop. And we've got an absolute belter of a guest to interview. It's none other than Eliza Carthy MBE. Don't you know? Hello, Eliza.
Hey, Gloria, how you doing? Hi, Scott.
How's it hanging?
Loose and free in the wind, thank you.
That's the best way for it to hang. That's how I do it. Strap yourself in, lassie. You're celebrating 30 years in the business this year. Let's go back and start at the very beginning. You come from something of a folk dynasty. Your lovely man was the wonderfully talented Norma Waterson, along with her sister Lal, brother Mike and cousin John. They formed the Watersons. And your dad is none other than the mighty Martin Carthy. He's so good on a guitar, he taught Paul Simon how to do it right. With all that going on around you, where did the journey start for you?
Okay, I was always into the family business. I always thought it was a great thing. I always thought that folk music was brilliant, but I never imagined I was going to do it. I thought I was going to be a writer. I basically started thinking about performing when I was about 13 years old, fell out with my best mate in the village, and my mum said, come on, stop being so miserable, come on the road with me and Lal and your cousin Mary Waterson. She says, we're forming a new group, it's called the Water Daughters, like the Watersons, and we're doing a tour, and then we're going to Canada in the summer. Do you want to come? And I said, yeah, all right then, okay. I was miserable as hell. They took us on this little folk club tour, which was absolutely brilliant. Just singing. I wasn't playing anything at that point. But yeah, we just did a little singing tour of the folk clubs. And then in the summer, we went and played Vancouver Folk Music Festival, which I thought was the most amazing thing on the planet. And that was it. I turned around to my mum after we got off the main stage. I said, that's it. I'm leaving school and I'm going on the road. And she says, you're not. That was it. Lasted 4 more years.
You dug your heels in, you got there eventually.
I had to wait till it was legal.
Is it true that you also popped on stage? You were about age 5, you just wandered on?
Yeah, there is that. My dad would have to tell you that story. But essentially, we were at Fylde Festival out in Fleetwood, and he was singing on stage with the Watersons, and I said, Dad, I want to come. I want to come and sing. And he says, listen, you don't know everything. He said, I do, in that way that you know everything when you're that age. I said, I do. And he said, no, you could. He says, I tell you what we'll do. He says, you stand by the side of me, stand here, and I'll be at the mic. And he says, when we start singing, if you know it, pull on me trouser leg. I'll lift you up to the mic and you can sing along. Okay. They start singing. They introduced the first one. I don't know, White Cockade, probably. They started with that a lot. On his leg, He's like, oh, all right then. Bends down, picks me up, sits me on his leg. And I used to sing all the way through. And he's like, did you like that? And I go, yes, thanks, Daddy. Okay, here we go. Put me down like that. So he starts singing the next one, where Dido Bendigo or something like that. And he's like, okay. Picks me up, sits me on his head. And then by the 3rd or 4th time, he realised that he wasn't going to get to put me down. So that was when he says it starts. But I don't want to go around telling people that I've been singing for 50 years or whatever it is.
You're nothing to worry about yet. You're in your prime.
I don't know, my hair's going blue, but then you know all about that, though, don't you?
It's the fashion, don't you know? Look at that. Man's fabulous.
What a mane.
It's not like Scott's. He's not gone blue. Have you, Scott?
I was blue for years.
Where do you sit on the folky spectrum?
I literally learn songs that I learned from my family. So I guess on the folky spectrum, I'm way over there, like in the traditional singer group, I suppose. My dad was one of the very first people to strap on an electric guitar to accompany folk music, so I suppose I'm not even rebelling there. If I'd really wanted to rebel, I would have become an accountant or something, eh?
Bless you. But do you challenge any of the folk systems in your lyrics or in your writing?
I think a lot of the tamer folkies don't really change things, and it's always been really important for us to change everything. Every generation handles the tradition differently. That's how it works. That's how the tradition works. Traditional music is folk music. It's kind of a process, and that process should be every generation learning as much as they can from the previous generation and then doing their own thing. And if they need to forget half of it, that's absolutely fine, but at least you did it, My dad used to say, you have to treat it with the respect and the disrespect that it deserves. Every generation does it differently. That's where I sit. You don't learn from your peers. You don't learn off people's records. You learn from as far back as you can go and then you express it with what you have around you. Like if all you have around you is people playing boom whackers and crum horns, then that's how you're going to do it, you know.
It's building on the past, but looking to the future with the folk that are around now.
Exactly.
Beautifully put. And you play a bunch of instruments, but are often seen with a fiddle in your hands. How long have you played, and what drew you toward your axe of choice?
My axe of choice. Nice. Okay, so my granddad died when I was 11, and he had a fiddle, and none of us knew. It actually turns out that we've got a fairly unbroken line of musicians on both sides of the family, at least 7 generations. So the beginning of the 1700s with my dad's family, and then my mum's family, of course, half of them are travellers, so going back in that generation is harder, but there are musicians in our side of the family. She's gone back to about 1300 on that side of the family.
Did anybody else of them, your grandpa, play the fiddle?
He gave it up. He was a politician, actually. After he sort of married and turned sensible, he was a writer. He met my grandma. She was a writer as well. There were those sort of 20s intellectuals kind of thing. I used to think I'd have been loved to have been alive in the 20s. And it's like, hang on a minute. Oh, we are. She really didn't like the fiddle, apparently. And he used to play, like Wind That Shakes the Barley and stuff like that. My dad never knew that he played at all until he took him to a session at the Dublin Castle or somewhere like that, and then they walked in there and there were people playing tunes in the corner. They were stood there watching the music, and then he turned around and he saw that my granddad had a tear in his eye. He was crying, and he said, "What's this all about?" And he said, "I used to play this one." And he was just completely blown away. He had no idea, and they were playing The Wind That Shakes the Barley. So what happened is that when he died when I was 11, we discovered this fiddle in his cupboard, and my mum was like, "Right, you're going to be a fiddle player now." And I actually really liked the piano. I loved playing the piano. I didn't particularly want to be a fiddle player. I didn't know anyone else that did it. But in 1988, Dave Swarbrick started coming around, and he was touring with my dad because they just revived their duo. Chris Wood started coming around because he was being mentored by my dad. And he said he had this tape on him, and he gave me this tape, and it was all over him playing the fiddle and singing, as well as singing unaccompanied and things. I absolutely treasure that tape. And he said to me, "Have you ever thought about singing with the fiddle?" And I said, "No, up until recently, I hadn't thought about playing the fiddle at all." And he got me to start off just playing the tune of the song and singing just the tune over the top. And then that was it. After that, he introduced me to a bunch of other singer violinists, I like to call them, who did the same thing. And that was it. I was hooked.
That's a beautiful story. And you had a cracking mentor there. It was great. You left school, as you mentioned, at 17, and you decided you were making this career out of being a musician. And since then, you've won countless folk awards. You were nominated for the Mercury Music Prize twice, and even got an MBE. What is it that still drives you now?
Poverty.
Oh, of course.
It's just the music, isn't it? Of course it is. It's just loving the music. And, when you've been doing something for 30 years, you realise, because I've been through some dreadful crises in the course of that 30 years, partnerships breaking up, marriages breaking up, all kind of, moving from country to country, having my children, which is obviously wonderful, my mum's illness, which is obviously difficult, all of that stuff, the Wayward Band, one high 1 minute and then crash the next minute. And through all of it, I love what I do. I believe in the message. I believe in the me that stands on stage. She's really changed, whoever that me is. I know Beyonce went even as far as to give that person another name. Aside from twat, I don't know what to call her, but she's that person is actually really good at what she does, and it's like a full body experience. It's just I love performing, and I love recording. I love piecing the pieces together. I love putting the jigsaw together. I love traditional music, and I want more people to know about it. You
worked with our Scott a while back. We couldn't grab you for a scoop at that point in time.
A tweet that you did in lockdown resulted in you painting yourself blue and doing a collaboration with our wee Scott. What were you thinking?
Was it true that you ended up in the middle of the town, blue in the shop?
Yeah, that was the thing, you see, because we did. It takes a lot longer to paint yourself blue than you might imagine. There's lots and lots of layers involved. And so I was like, oh, this will be fine. Anyway, so I started. And then I was like, okay, I've got any blue eyeshadow. Let's put some of that on there. And then it's like the pink still showing through. All right, what can I do now? Yeah, okay, I've got some blue hairspray. And then I realised my hands were still pink. I was like, trying to do that. Found all the gear and the scarf and the whole thing. And then I was like, shop shuts in 5 minutes. Okay. Gotta get the paper for Grandad.
You were fully committed.
Fully committed. And wearing MC Hammer pants and like the whole bit. I was covered in gold, covered in big hoopy earrings, the whole thing. So I thought, sod it, I've got to get the paper and we need some milk.
We'll be back later with another part of our interview with Eliza Carthy. But for now, Eliza, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, ladies and gents, I'm delighted to welcome to Big NEET the wonderful Miss Eliza Carthy. Eliza, you alright?
Hey, Scott. How you doing, buddy?
Okay, let's do this.
Let's do this.
Make way for Prince Ali. Say hey, it's Prince Ali.
Hey, clear the way in the old bazaar. Hey, you let us through, it's a bright new star. Oh, come be the first on your block to meet his eye. Make way, here he comes, ring bells, bang the drums. Oh, you're gonna love this guy. Prince Ali, fabulous he, Ali Ababa. Genuflect, show some respect, down on one knee. Now try your best to stay calm. Brush up your Sunday salam. Then come and meet his spectacular coterie. Prince Ali, mighty is he, Ali Ababa. Strong as 10 regular men, definitely. He faced the galloping hordes, 100 bad guys with swords, who set those goons for their lords. Why, Prince Ali, he's got 75 golden camels, purple peacocks, he's got 53. When it comes to exotic type mammals, has he got a zoo? I'm telling you, it's a world-class menagerie. Prince Ali, handsome is he, Ali Ababa. That physique, how can I speak, weak at the knee? Well, get on out in that square, adjust your veil and prepare to gawk and grovel and stare at Prince Ali. He's got 95 Persian white monkeys.
He's got the monkeys. Let's see the monkeys.
And to view them, he charges no fee.
He's generous, so generous.
He's got slaves, he's got servants and flunkies.
Proud to work
They
for him,
bow to his whim, love serving him. They're just lousy with loyalty to Ali. Prince Ali, Prince Ali, amorous he, Ali Ababa. Heard your princess was a sight lovely to see, and that good people is why he got dolled up and dropped by. With 60 elephants, llamas galore, with his bears and lions, a brass band and more, with his 40 fakers, his cooks, his bakers, his birds that wobble on key. Make way for Prince Ali.
Thank you.
Well, hello there, it's Gloria McGlumpher, and I'm back again with the second part of my wonderful Big NEET news scoop. So 30 years, you don't look old enough. But we have something of a super scoop coming up shortly, but not before we talk about your new album. Do you happen to have a copy of it to hand?
Why, yes, Gloria, I do.
The consummate professional there, that's cracking. Oh, look at that. What's it called and how did it come about?
Well, it's called Queen of the Whirl. There it is. It came about through odd and strange means, actually, not just the old 30 years business, but I was contacted by a fellow called Malcolm McWatt, who is a Scottish country-style singer-songwriter, and he asked me if I would play on a song of his, The Miller's Daughter, which I did. This is right in the middle of lockdown, so it was all recorded remotely in the living room, as we're all familiar with these days. Yeah. And so I did that for him, and I got chatting to the head of the label. It was this guy, Brian Blinkerhoff, and he said, would I like to make a single? And I said, well, that sounds great. Yeah. As it turned out, I had a new song called Night Swimming, which I'd written in the summer of 2019. And then I'd been asked to do a version of My Little Corner of the World, the old 50s song, a very romantic, sort of lovely 50s song. So I had these two songs. We made this single together, and then he said, you were 30 years this year, eh? Well, in a year. How do you fancy doing an album? Ooh. The thing about the pandemic, right, is that everyone's been unemployed for 2 years, but I'd had a couple of years on that beforehand because of what happened with Wayward. I gave up everything else to do Wayward, so when it stopped happening, I had a big fallow period of, sitting on my arse, feeling sorry for myself. That's what, fallow's like an acronym for that, but you have to, it's feeling all awful. Wow. That's what fallow stands for.
Well, I think we can all associate with that.
We talked, and then basically we came upon this idea of the fans choosing of the Twitter poll, basically. He says, you've got a shit hot band at the moment. Just take these songs, go into the studio and see what you can do. There's the one thing that happened with the restitution, of course, my lovely fellow sailors in the boat, there they all are. As lockdown was about to happen, we were in the studio actually here in the rehearsal studio at the Gasworks in Whitby, rehearsing for the very first live tour of Restitute, which hadn't happened yet. And the very first live outing of Through That Sound, My Secret Was Made Known, which is my last contemporary record, my last songwriting record. So we were all watching the news and rehearsing and watching the news and rehearsing. Didn't know what was going to happen. And then, of course, 3 days before the tour, boom, everyone, that's it, you're not going anywhere kind of thing. My dad, it took the longest to settle in for my dad because he's one of these people who will perform come hell or high water, not out of ego, just out of support for the clubs and where he's been working his entire life. I said, what we're going to do this weekend? And he said, I'm going away this weekend. I said, you're not, Dad? And he said, no one's going to stop me from working. And I said, Dad, this is it. You can't go. You can't leave the house. And he's like, right, well, I'm going to the shop. And I was like, no, Dad, you don't understand. You can't do that. You can't do any of it. Fast forward. We were all so mad keen to get on the road last year. We did a tour. We did that tour. So the Restitute, My Secret Was Made Known tour. And it just turned out that group of people that I'd picked were the shit hottinest group of people to work together. And they were so motivated to play. It was a massive release of energy for us to do that. And then when the offer came in to actually make the record, Brian said, if you want to do it, I'll pay you up front. And the band was like, oh, this is very different from our last experience. Because like three of them were in Wayward, we'll take it. And so, yeah, we actually finished the album pretty much a year ago last week. It's great because some of them were around when these original recordings were made. We were badass in our own ways when we were in our teens and 20s and 30s, but now we're badass, but we're also really good. When I say we, I mean them, obviously, because I'm kind of the village idiot in our band,
Oh, you're doing yourself a disservice. We saw you at Wickham, and I think that was one of the first shows that you did, and it was all mud But it was absolutely, you looked so comfortable with everybody that you were playing with. You could see the passion behind it.
That show at Wickham, it was that set where we were supposed to be on the main stage, and the main stage fell into the mud, basically. Well, it wasn't like a butt, it was more like a...
Yeah, it really was. It just kind of sunk.
So we ended up playing in that sweaty little tent. It felt like a nightclub, and that was it. Everyone was right up in our faces, and it was the first time we'd played any of that material to a festival set. That was my very, very first festival experience of having an entire tent full of people sing my songs back to me upon hearing it for the first time.
Like you say, there was new material, but people got right behind it. It was the passion behind it. You could feel it. Everybody wanted to be there. You wanted to be there, and it went out with force.
It certainly did. It was lovely. Yeah, a great experience.
You're out on the road soon, and where can people expect to see you?
Oh, well, we're all over the shop. We are at Ludlow, Diss, Newcastle, well, Sage, Gateshead, Sheffield, Chipping Norton, Brighton, Leeds. And then after Christmas, we're going up to Celtic Connections. We've got Celtic Connections in January. Also, me and my dad are playing a Trad Fest in Dublin, Temple Bar Trad Fest, end of January. Then on February the 4th, we've got a big show in that London. It's going to be my dad's belated 80th and also 60 years on the road, which, by the way, bloody hell. My 30th anniversary, obviously, but we're also going to do a bit of a tribute to my mum with the full lineup of the gift band as well. So it's a triple threat, that gig. That's February 4th at the Barbican. Tickets are selling well. So, yeah, if you want to come down for a trip, bring a puppet bus.
That is absolutely amazing. It'll be a beautiful night, I'm absolutely sure. And we've got now a very special collaboration. Are we Scott's involved? You can't get rid of him, really. He's a bit of a terror.
I would like to interview Scott about his experience making this. I'll give you the setup anyway. So I'll give you the setup. My mother was a DJ in Montserrat in the West Indies in the 1960s. She was there for 4 years working on Radio Antilles, and during that time she gained a massive love of calypso music. So she brought all these incredible calypso records back from Montserrat, and I grew up listening to the Mighty Sparrow. The thing about Good Morning Mr. Walker, it's been in our set since about 1995, and it appeared in the Twitter list, and when it did I was like, oh, I can't. We've done it with the Kings of Calicut. We've done it with the Wayward Band. Me and Saul have toured it for 30 years. And then I went, me and Saul have toured it, but we've never actually recorded it. Okay. So we recorded it, just the two of us. And when we do it live, it's always really vibey. It's always really, really good. It's trying to stick that party vibe down on the record. It didn't work because so many of them had voted for it. It's like, yeah, come on then, you do it. So we sent them out the basic track. And we two drop boxes. This is where to download the track. This is where to put your contribution. Film yourself. Make sure you film yourself. This is where Scott takes over.
So I ended up. I saw your post about this, and I took that as a challenge, as I normally do with these things, and sent you, my bit with me playing the uke, and then you basically said, "This looks great. Can you do the whole video?" And it's great because you got the two Johns from Bella Head, in a Premier Inn. And you got all these completely off kilter wacky characters. It was a lot of fun to put together. Thank you for asking me, because it was a labour of love putting this together.
Honestly, I couldn't believe it when I first watched it. I was like, oh my god.
I think we need to cut to the actual premiere of this wonderful video. I'm going to let you introduce it, Eliza.
Thank you, Gloria. And by the way, I do like your glasses, but I see why you wear them now that I see Scott's shirt. So this is Good Morning Mr. Walker, Slinger and Norma Go to the Dance Hall mix.
Well, thank you very much, Eliza Carthy. We hope you're all going to enjoy this exclusive premiere. Scoop-a-doop. See you later. Bye.
this is Wallace T. Yeti. I'm not angry. There were just no other accents left. And this is the Eliza Carthy Show. With special guests, Eliza Carthy and friends. I'm going to wave now. Because I can.
She's wearing that expensive dress. The people say she's ugly, but her father's full of money. Oh Lord, Mama, why? Good morning, Mr. Walker. Oh, Mr. Walker. Sweet Rosemary, she promised she would marry me. Now I'm tired of waiting. Nobody say. Every time I take a good look at her face, I see a bang. Look, oh Lord, Mama, why? Good morning, Mr. Walker. Oh, Mr. Walker. Sweet Rosemary, she promised she would marry me. Now I'm tired of waiting. I don't intend to let her go. Or if she was a beauty, someone like me could get. She alone, Mama, why? Good morning, Mr. Walker. Oh, Mr. Walker. Sweet Rosemary, she promised she would marry me. Now I'm tired of waiting, and I've come to fix the wedding.
Enjoyed it. Be off with you now, but before you do, I'm going to wave because I can.